What is growing on? So I'm back at Jim's house. It is the 5th of February. Cool Saturday morning. We got some rain last night, and Florida gets cold, just so y'all know. People think Florida, palm trees, beaches. We do get, multiple nights per year commonly with frost, especially more towards central Florida. Jim just had, I want to say, at least 30 degrees. Everything was covered in frost out here, and I want to give you guys an update, show you what kind of damage he had, what he protected, what he covered, what he did for frost coming in. So hold tight, Jim update. There he is, top of the morning to you.
Morning, Pete.
All right, everybody's looking for that frost update. How'd you make out here?
Pretty damn good. Lost some nasturtiums and tomatoes. I didn't cover anything. I just went to sleep that night. Happy dreams, and woke up to everything frozen solid and waited 2 or 3 hours. It unthawed and looked like it never happened. It always amazes me how, winter annuals can just, cold season winter annuals can just go through a really hard frost. But I mean, I looked at it like, if it's September in Maine, we'll get like 20 degrees there, and kale will come right out of it, Swiss chard will come right out of it, lettuce even. It's amazing. Everybody's worried about covering all this cold season stuff. You don't have to.
What do you mean? You didn't have the irrigation running? This place wasn't covered in frost?
No, I've seen you can do more damage that way, but I don't need to, because, I kind of compose a system that, thrives in the environment it's living in. So, you plant the cold season annuals during the cold season, and when it starts to get hot, you yank them out and get the hot season stuff in. So, that whole idea of composing a system instead of imposing your will because you want tomatoes in January. And I imposed my will a little, but I said, I don't care. Either I'll get them or I won't. Because, everybody's saying that was a bad frost, but, I've been here a long time, and we got worse coming. The guy said, oh, if I just got through. We had a March 24th frost in Odessa back in the 90s. That hurt.
What was your low here? Do you know what you guys hit?
I don't got one of them stations. If you go by the internet, it was like 31 for just a little bit.
That was the low. And more frost with the higher temperature the next night?
Yeah, it was like 39 and frost heavy, but because it was blowing still, on the night before, it couldn't form frost, but it just froze stuff. I mean, the bird bath had, ½ inch of ice on it, so it definitely was cold. And I'm showing a little bit of burn, like turnip should be fine, but these are younger plants just establishing, but that's just a little burn, but it's coming off a plant that looks like that, so it's going to be fine. So I mean, it's very little damage. This garden's, this part of the garden's pretty much done till the next planting, so it's kind of not in its prime, where over there it's prime right now, and that didn't take any damage.
Oh, I see what you're talking about with the nasturtiums here along the wall. They melted.
Right. I mean, such a microclimate, but
wow.
The nasturtiums up around the house.
Are they fine?
Well, there's just a little bit of the bananas. There's like a cold spot, but everything else is hardly touched. Like, look at the ones right by the wall there. It's fine, even right here.
Wow.
I mean, just those little microclimates makes all the difference. And then I had basil on the outside of the wall that did fine, which blows me away. So that's, so you learn something every year. So, now, that we still have a chance for frost until March 1st, but I got some basil going, so I'm just going to plant it all along the outside of that wall. And, as the heat comes on, they'll love that heat. The wall builds up every day and keeps it down during the night, so that should thrive. And, I'll get a crop out of that before I go, so it's worth it. But for all the people that, think the gardens are done, I've got a whole garden that I'm going to be planting the same things I did when I got here in October, and I'll get harvest out of it. So, the idea that you get your garden in and you're done, it doesn't have to be. So I get 3 different plantings of 90-day crops.
You won't plant broccoli this late,
yep,
right?
That's it.
You are still planting it.
Wow. Seedlings. And I'll get,
whoa.
By the middle of March, I'll have, it's just amazing how much faster it comes on. So we're looking at, Swiss chard, Napa cabbage. That is snow crown cauliflower. That is Arcadia broccoli. That's Happy Rich broccoli. That's all the kales I grow. Bok choy. What else we got there? Kohlrabi. Yeah, so I mean, and then you can mix in your quick crops. So I'll plant like 4 more plantings of radishes, 1 more planting of carrots. That's direct seed, so that's not as fast. And then those turnips, I'll just do that 3 more times. They're amazing.
You're still going with soil blocks then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Go look in there.
Go look in there. Let's see the next generation, Jim.
Okay, I mean it's small, but the lettuce, I'm realizing that is so easy to turn around that I made, the leaf day. I kind of plant by a biodynamic calendar. There's a leaf day like 3 days ago. So I seeded out a bunch of them. And sure, look, they're coming up. 3 days. I mean, it doesn't look like much, but it's happened. That was seeded yesterday, because that's some baby bok choy. But those will, go up to the big blocks in 12 days, go into the garden at 25 days old, and I'll be harvesting off them at, 5 weeks.
Was there 1,000 in that little area?
There's, yeah, exactly.
Really?
270 times 4, so that's a little over 1,000.
Nice.
And then I do the medium-sized soil block for beets. So those are sowed on a root day. That was probably 5 days ago. So there's golden beets and 2 different kinds of red beets in the same soil blocks that I was just planting out there. And more scallions. And then those are the basil.
These are the basils?
Yeah, there's sacred basil, the holy basil, and then there's just the Genovese basil, the sweet basil. And those will go up to soil blocks probably next week, and then go into the ground because we'll be past frost possibility. And I guess I did get ready for the frost. So I went and pulled all the tomatoes that would look like they had color on them. I mean, there's going to be some nice clusters of Camparis.
Whoa.
So we'll see. They should ripen up. I mean, they're already showing yellow, so there's probably, 60 pounds there, so got something.
Rescued a little something.
Yeah.
Okay. You bringing cut flowers to market yet?
No, I backed off on them just because it added another hour to 2 hours in the evening, getting ready for market. So
Prep time.
I'm at CSA pickup yesterday. I cut, I had 31 orders yesterday. It's pretty brutal. That's why I was up at 3. But I gave 1 sunflower in each share, and people were happy about that. It's kind of nice.
That's why you said don't come by on Saturday. You had it, or Friday.
Friday.
You had a busy week. Wow.
I was hustling.
Jeez.
And then Tasty Tuesday rocked, and I had 15 shares here on Tuesday, so yeah, it was a busy. But I mean, this is the peak of the season from now until, middle of March. And then it starts to taper off a little. So this is when...
About 6 weeks, 5, 6 weeks?
Yeah, that's when the cash really flows. That's, the month, I think Justin was here during that month, and that was the best month way back 5 years ago. And it'll be the best month this year, too. I'd be curious to see how much. But I know it's volume of food, it's unparalleled. I mean, it's just getting better and better just because you get to know your plants better every year. I've changed how I'm harvesting lettuce this year, so I thought I was a lettuce guy, right?
What?
You get used to doing things one way, and then that's the way you do it, and then you start tuning into what's happening as you're doing it, and, I used to just clip the leaves off but not get very close to the stalk, right? But I realize I'm leaving that much of the leaf, right? And that's the biggest part of the leaf. So that's the most weight and volume. So if I cut back closer, I'm getting more volume quicker, and the plant has less foliage to deal with to dry off and less chance of disease. So, I mean, that probably, increased my production like a quarter.
So the plant's happier and you're getting more harvest. Win-win.
And it's just because I'm out there in the garden doing it again and again and again. I'm not counting for the wall drill to do it for me. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just seeing, even for small gardeners, the idea that you can take a small space and use it multiple times. Because if I go through, so that lettuce is coming out, but that's been harvested for 8 weeks. Okay? So every week, twice a week, I'm harvesting lettuce out of the same bed.
Wow.
So just because I'm using that space of sunlight, it pulses out, I cut it back, using that space of sunlight. Whereas if I would have cut the whole plant out, then I had to replant and let it come back, and I'd lose in time and harvest. So the idea that get a bed in, take it out twice, and then done, I'm not having to replant and wait. So it's, again, tuning into the space available to the sunlight and the soil, but you need the soil fertility to be able to pump that. And even Sal knows I'd never had cut outside leaves. I just harvested the whole thing. It was easier, right? Cut the center out, maybe it'd reblow. If I take the time and cut around, I'm getting the perfect size leaf, and I get it for 8 weeks.
Instead of that one harvest, wow.
I mean, it's probably less, but I can always show up in the market with lettuce now. I don't have to worry about having successional planting of lettuce every 2 weeks if you were harvesting, the whole bed. So yeah, and just tuning in. That's all about time in the garden. Because I'm spending those hours, lots of hours.
Jim, you've put your time in.
Yeah, I mean, just that many soil blocks. But I mean, I'm so good at it, that took me 3 hours to do 1,000 minis.
That's, listening to music, sitting down in the shade.
Watching the birds, watching the bees, waving to all the people that drive by.
How's that been lately? You been picking up?
Yeah, it's been almost annoying.
A little much?
Yeah, almost. But I'm, most of the time they're nice people and are happy, but I mean, I just don't got that much time. But, the true farmers that want to show up and talk to me, I usually make time.
You prefer to meet people at market?
Yes, definitely. Just fans especially.
Okay. Please come see Jim at Tasty Tuesdays. Writes nutrients every other Sunday.
There you go.
And how do they connect with Tarpon? That's a tough one, huh?
That's a tough one. It's pretty much full. I mean, he's probably got 45 names, and it's going to be 30 every week for the next 6 weeks. So, I mean, think about that. This garden is pulling, and then that's 15 on Tuesday. So 45 bunches of everything I put in a share. So it's 45 bunches of turnips, 45 bunches of carrots, 45 bags of greens mix, 45 bags of arugula, 45 bunches of radishes, 45 bunches of green garlic, 45 bunches of green onions. I mean, that, and the garden continues to produce. I mean, it amazes me. But, realistically, everybody say I'm doing all this work. Think how much work is going on in the soil, in the plants. They're doing most of the work. I'm just reaping the results by spending the time to get it to people's bellies.
I like that. Let's check out these tomatoes.
Okay.
All right. I want to see what people are going to be asking. What's left of them? You got any that survived?
Yeah. So, this one, I'm curious to see if it'll sprout out. The ones that are, obviously worse drop the fruit. So I'm trying to tune into that. I'm not just going to take them out because they're ugly. I mean, this one looks like it's coming back pretty heavy on the low branches. But the ones that did the best, well, there's one out there. We can go look at that.
You going to be selecting seed for a cold hardy tomato?
I'm thinking that might be a winner.
Okay.
Take a mortgage. Oh, I don't got one.
Oh, those look pretty good.
Yeah. So
right by that edge of the tree, huh?
Right, but I mean, it's not the edge of the tree. It's maybe that plant.
Right,
so
too.
that one, I think, it'll continue. It's got flowers on it. That one too. Yeah, I mean, true plant people would be looking really hard right now because they'd realize that they have a chance to find something that could change the game for their tomatoes in the future, and then if they wanted to sell seed too. And then another thing about trying different varieties. I'm sold on Arcadia broccoli, right? So it gets a little of, and I wish I knew the name of this fungus, that one. I think it might be alternaria. But so I tried 3 different ones just because I was out of Arcadia seed. And so there's one over there just getting blown away by it. This one isn't bad. Arcadia has none. So again, I'm tuning in and saying, yeah, Arcadia is the reason I'm using Arcadia because it's. And then the heads, I pulled another 2.5 pound head yesterday for market. How was that?
Really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gavin like it?
Oh, he's
all
been
right.
it up, yeah.
Cool.
Very good. All right, so plant and disease experts, if you know what Jim has on his broccoli, drop it in the comments.
There's something because I know there's people, I saw some guys online saying, oh, this one's terrible with it, this one's good with it. So most of them greenhouse growers.
Is that an issue since you've been growing it since the beginning or something that years of growing it?
It's worse and better years. It came, probably my 4th year growing, it came and it took out the turnip tops too. I know Cole was having problems with it. They were bringing market just the bulb because the greens are so ugly. But it hasn't got bad enough in the last 5 years to have anything to do with the turnips. But the broccoli's still producing, it's just uglier.
As long as we're getting heads, right? The leaves
Right.
are ugly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's the one that's really getting it bad over there. I think that might be green magic. Because usually it doesn't come on until the leaves are older. And this is a pretty new. Look at how much of that. And you know, it could be some of the issues on how I plant, because see how I stuff the turnips underneath. So there's less airflow under there, but you know, I want to be able to do that, so I want a variety that will allow me to do that, because I'm doubling my space. So I'm getting a crop of turnips here, calla arabi there, before the broccoli fill out. So I've tripled my growing space just by doing that. Tuned into the plants, knowing their season and their time frame.
No spraying anything on those things? No neem oil, soap? We're not going to try any of the good stuff, huh?
No, why don't, I want things to thrive on what I do, and I don't want to have to baby them.
Oh, we got some other tomatoes over there, huh?
Yeah, I don't want to look at them. That's a new crop I'm loving. You know that one?
Well, it looks like celery, but what is
There it is.
It is celery?
It's celery. Last year I tried it. It worked great. I probably crowded it a little too much with the broccoli, but it's a long crop to get going. But, you know, I just cut the outside leaves and bunch it. So I'll be able to harvest out of that for the rest of the spring.
It's definitely healthy looking.
Yeah, and it's salty. It's really nice. I didn't realize how many people use that kind of stuff to cook. I mean, between the dill, the cilantro, and the parsley, you know, I'm doing pretty good with that. You plant one plant, and I probably get like, over its life, 12 or 15 cuts off it to go to market for a bunch, and that's $15. So, I mean, and it just fits in the edge. But now this, this could be the microclimate. These are definitely happier than those.
And this is the edge of a pecan?
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
And these had none of the early blight disease on them, and I wasn't sure why. But I think it might, who knows, it might have something to do with the pecan leaves. It might change pH. It might be, you know, the oak oil idea. Maybe that's doing something to keep early blight off. But then there's those two over there that's right in the middle of some ones that got toasted are doing all right. So again, I should probably save seeds from these if I'm going to regrow. And then potatoes took it, but not hard. My whole idea was here is to plant early potatoes that I got from Wrights that were already budding out, you know, Yukon Gold. Planted them and then immediately oversowed with arugula. So if they got toasted, I have the arugula underneath. I've already got one cut of arugula, so I've already doubled my harvest out of this bed, and I'm going to get in one more cut before the potatoes fill in enough that it'll shade out the arugula. And we'll see. I didn't like doing potatoes, but you know, it's nice to have some new potatoes.
Yeah, you were prepared for cold here, huh?
Yeah, I always think about it. I ain't quite ready for. So that's carrots planted with that cedar that we talked about. We can show you that.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So they're almost ready to come up. They're usually. Is there one coming up there? Nope. They're 7 days, maybe 8 days during a little colder weather. And then all those are planted with that same cedar. So that is radishes, 4 different kinds of beets, and the snow apple turnips. All planted 1 inch on center, 4 inches wide. And I'll get crop out of all that. The issue with the beets is to go ahead and thin them for beet greens, like take half of it out for beet greens, so I'll get a crop out of that. And you know, it's so cool to seed a crop, never thin and never weed.
Wow.
You know, precision planter, but really the precision's right here.
In the fingers.
They can't build that machine yet. They tried. And this crop's coming on good. So this is, I think the last time you were here, this was looking tiny.
Oh, it's small. Yeah.
So I've already taken the first bunches of mustard greens out, been harvesting snow apple turnips. I mean, they're getting perfect here. So this was interplanted between the chard, so I get that out, and that's how I like taking the turnips. That's about the perfect size. I mean, they'll still be tender, bigger, but I just like bunching them that way. The greens are pretty. And they're so tasty.
I heard that crunch.
Mmm. Sweet and tender.
That's a popular one, huh?
Yep. That's one of the top 3.
All right, Jim, the garden survived.
It's thriving, not surviving.
It's thriving still. It didn't even get phased by the cold. You know, a couple little setbacks, but nothing's gonna slow you down.
Nothing that I didn't plan on. As soon as I plant those tomatoes, I say I'm not gonna cover them, and if they die, they die. And so the stress is off. So I had no stress with that freeze. None. I bet there's some gardeners that were pretty stressed.
Oh, I bet there was.
Including one up in Spring Hill.
Hey, I slept that night, don't worry. All right, guys, so Jim update on the freeze, what he did, what he didn't do. As you can see, Jim doesn't do much. Things are killing it around here, constantly thriving on neglect. You know, Jim's not out here covering things with blankets or running overhead water. You know, the garden takes it fine. As you can see, it looks better since the last time I was here. So the cold really did no damage other than some tomatoes and nasturtiums, which weren't a big deal. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to know more about what Jim does, you can do this on your own. Start making a living doing this, do this as a hobby. We do have a masterclass with Jim. Link's always in the description down below of the Jim videos. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. Most importantly, it's 2022. Get out there and start a garden. Pound dirt.